Yeah, some people start off kind of imagining rope to be like a painful experience, or like it has to be like a dominating experience and they have to feel small in rope, but I just don't. I kind of want it to be seen as something like to admire or to appreciate.
So, Shibari, the way that I kind of know it and I'm familiar with it, is the art of tying with ropes. There's Shibari and then there's Kinbaku. Shibari is like an umbrella term for like everything regarding rope. And then Kinbaku kind of incorporates the like sensual or sexual, emotional element. I think a really interesting like lineage of Shibari that it comes from wartime in the Edo period of Japan. The ones imprisoning were tying the prisoners, but they were doing so in a very like meticulous and beautiful way. And then it also had a practical purpose because the ropes represented like the crimes that were committed, so it was also a labeling system. And then it moved into like the underground kind of sex scene, sex club. It was usually men tying women, so it was very much these like classic symbols of power. Print magazines were starting to become popular, especially in Japan, where these painters would depict these images of torment, they called them, of women tied up. They would be put in a magazine, and then that magazine was distributed to the American soldiers that were there at the time, and then those soldiers brought it back to the West. Shibari definitely has a complicated history, and like depending on who you ask, they'll tell you a different story. Yeah, I love looking at myself this way because I just feel very strong. Yeah, New York is definitely a really good place to get into Shibari, but any major city has kind of its rope people, and you'll find that each rope community kind of has its own language and their own like aesthetic too. In New York, there's a lot more people that practice, I'd say like more Japanese style of rope, are more committed to the like Japanese aesthetic and like the history. But then you go to the West Coast and I've seen more like synthetic ropes, like different colors, and that's like more Western style bondage that's like originated in the US. I think Paris has embraced Shibari in a really big way, and so has Berlin. When I go there and work there, like nobody's shocked that I do this. They're just like, okay, you and everyone else do that. Like it's not that crazy. Whereas, yeah, I feel even in the US sometimes I get a bit of pushback and like confusion because of the more like pure Puritan culture maybe. So a lot of my ties come from Hajime Kinoko and like his kind of way of tying. And yeah, he's been doing it for over 20 years, and he invented a type of shibari called web. But I just think his harnesses are meant to be quite comfortable, and yeah, I just think aesthetically they're very pretty. It's like finding safe ways to surrender, and like because of that, it's extremely empowering. Most of my clients are female, and women are already so used to surrendering and like are comfortable doing it, versus men who approach me are very, very shy because the world doesn't reward men who surrender. Yeah, those experiences with men, they're much more private, versus women like want to be photographed, they want to be seen this way because we've always been seen. Yeah, the posting is kind of a part of the art for me at this point. It is like a very ephemeral art where it's like after the fact all you have left is like the photos or videos if you took them. Otherwise it's just like nothing at the end. Because I think for a while I'm like, I had to explain myself so much. And I think now more than anything, people are super into it and want to experience it or hire me to do stuff. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. I feel like I've come a long way, but also just become more confident.